Okay, so continuing with writing equations of lines, sometimes equations will intersect, and sometimes they do so either in a perpendicular way or any type of angle, and sometimes they do not intersect at all. And these are several cases we need to talk about. For example, how do you know if two lines do not intersect? Well, it turns out that if you graph two lines, for example, the first one and the third one, they both go in the same direction, and one of the first things that you notice is that the slopes are exactly the same. So we know that then from algebra 1, two lines will not intersect if and only if they have the same slope, right? You remember that from algebra 1. And so basically to see whether or not they are parallel, you just compare the slope. So if we label this as equation 1, equation 2, equation 3, we can see that equation 1 is parallel to equation 2. What about 1 and 2? Well, it turns out that when two lines are perpendicular to each other, then the product of the slopes happens to be -1. So we can test pretty easily if these two lines here, 1 and 2, are perpendicular by just taking the product of their slopes. So for example, equation 1, the slope will be 1/3, and then the equation, or rather the slope for equation 2 has -3, and if I were to multiply this out, I would end up with -3 divided by 3, which is indeed -1. And we're going to use this fact to come up with equations of lines in order to, for example, let's say I'm given a point. Suppose you have the point 5, 3, and you want to find an equation that is perpendicular to another line. Let's say y equals -5/7 x minus 2. Okay, now the line that we want has to pass through 5, 3, but it has to be perpendicular to this other line. So what we do is we know that the slope of this line that we need to find and the slope of this, their product has to be -1. So if we take a simple step and multiply the two, and we know what the answer is supposed to be, then clearly you can see that the slope will be the negative reciprocal. If you multiply both sides by the reciprocal of this, we're going to get -1 times the reciprocal of 5/7, which is -7/5. That would give us a negative times a negative is a positive, which is 7/5. And then the rest would be to just write the equation. Let me write the equation in a different color. Write the equation in either way you want. For example, I'll use the points slope formula. Given that the new slope for the perpendicular one would be 7/5, and then plug in your point. So here we got y minus 3 equals 7/5. 7, that's a 7 over there. And then x minus our x value would be 5. So this equation here would be perpendicular to this other equation that we were given, y equals -5/7 x minus 2. Of course, we could write this in, we can write it in slope-intercept form to make it look like the other equation. So this would be y minus 3 would be equal to 7/5 x, and then minus 7 times 5 will be 35. The 5's cancel out, you get negative 7. And then I can add the 7, or the 3 rather, to both sides of the equation. So then y becomes 7/5 x, and then negative 7 plus 3 will be obviously negative 4. And you can see then the equations look very similar, except the slopes are the negative reciprocal of each other. In other words, negative 5 times 7 multiplied by 7/5 will indeed give you negative 1. As you can see, things cancel out and you end up with minus 1. Let's try another equation like that. In this case, let's see if we can find an equation that is parallel. So here you are given say the point -1 and 2, and you are given that this you want an equation that is parallel to y equals 2x plus 1. Now, if you recall, we said that two lines are parallel if and only if their slopes are the same, or in geometry words, they're congruent. So that means that the new slope that I want has to be exactly the same as this slope, which is the 2 here. So it's 2/1. And that would make sure that the lines will be parallel. So all we have to do is come up with an equation that looks like this and has the same slope passing through the point -1, 2. So with that in mind, let's use this form, y equals mx plus b, substituting our point. Y is 2, m is going to be, of course, 2 also, x is -1. Finding the y-intercept, 2 equals -2 plus b. Clearly I have to add 2 to both sides, so b becomes 4. So now our equation then looks like y equals 2x, because we need to have the same slope, plus 4. Now, as you can see, they have the same slope, so they're going to be pointing in the same direction, but one of them will pass through 1 as the y-intercept, and the other one will be 3 points higher than that, but it will be still in the same direction. You can actually graph it and see real quick. You're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. There's your point, and then this is going to be up 2/1. So the line kind of goes this way like this. And the other one will be at +1 up 2/1, so the line will still be parallel to both. So both of them will be parallel to each other. So, you know, just remember, let's recapitulate a little bit. For two lines to be perpendicular, the product of their slope must be -1. If two lines are parallel, then their slopes must be equal or congruent, and that's all for now.